Welcome to Spotlight Hustle. My name is Natalia Nicholson and I'm the founder of Women in Digital Business. Every week in this first series, we are bringing you a selection of Black female entrepreneurs that are rocking it. Women in Digital Business is all about finding your niche, finding your sweet spot in the online marketplace, which gives you freedom and it gives you flexibility to do all the things that you want to do. And I think it's really important for Black women to be able to see themselves, see their own image and see the success that we have got all around the world globally, because there's a lot of it. We're starting businesses at the fastest rate than any other group and we are the least supported. So this podcast is all about bringing you and featuring a woman every single week so you can see you can do it. It is possible. We need to see more of that. We need to get inspired. We need to get motivated to understand others have done it before we come along. So we have got the power within ourselves to do it. And the Women in Digital Business community will walk with you and make sure that you achieve those goals. You turn those dreams into reality. So let's get started. This week we are looking at Emma Grede. Absolutely love this woman. She's actually British. She's from East London. Woohoo! Same part of town that I'm from. And Emma Grede, I just feel like as Brits, she's not as well known in the British community as she should be, as she now resides and does business in America. So who is she? She is the founder and co-founder of, yes, Good American, who we mainly think is Khloe Kardashian. And she is also the co-founder of Skims with Kim Kardashian. And also she is the founder of a cleaning product called Safely. So she's rocking in all areas and I really want to share her story with you today because it's so inspiring and there's so much of it that I can relate to and I believe you will be able to. So without further ado, let's have a little introduction about the wonderful Emma.
And I couldn't be more excited to interview my friend, the lovely, the amazing, the powerhouse, Emma Grede, who is the CEO and co-founder of Good American. So to me, Emma truly embodies what it means to be a serial entrepreneur. She's also a co-founding partner of Skims. Skims is a solutions-oriented underwear, shapewear, loungewear brand. She's also the co-founder of Safely, the plant-powered, chemical-free cleaning product line. So because she's got nothing else to do, she's also a reoccurring investor on ABC's critically acclaimed series, Shark Tank. And she made history as the first Black woman to serve as an investor on the show. She also was recently named one of America's richest self-made women. So Emma, I am so excited to talk to you. We've got a lot to talk about.
Emma just has so much, like I'm speaking to her like I know her, she's my friend. Hopefully she'll be watching this. Because I'm definitely a raving fan. She has done so much to be the first Black investor on Shark Tank. Shark Tank is a show that one day, one of my visions is to have a show like that where we can really feature just Black female entrepreneurs globally, especially those of us that are second, third, fourth generation. We have a home country, being able to go back to our home country and just recognize the opportunities that exist in places like Africa, Asia, the Caribbean, basically the transatlantic slave trade. And just to know that she has reached a level where she is the first Black investor on a program like Shark Tank, it's like I just want to give her a big hug, if you want me to be honest with you, and take my hat off to her. Not only is she the first Black person to have invested in Shark Tank, Black female at that as well, she is also America's richest self-made woman. and a black woman at that. And any of you watching this that don't come from the black community, it's not my intention to alienate someone, but it's huge and it needs to be celebrated. It's a huge thing. It's an absolutely phenomenal achievement, because when it comes to the top of the food chain, there's not much representation. Yeah, it's really thin on the ground. So the fact that we've got this girl from East London that's homegrown, that should, in my opinion, should almost be like a household name in the female entrepreneurial community. I just really want to bring her forward, her story, forward. She was born in East London. She left school at 16 years of age. Okay, no formal qualifications, and she really got into talent marketing. So what she did in the first instance was really be able to nurture a skill of what she was really good at. And that was really understanding what communities look like and how communities could be aligned with brands. And she had a talent marketing company. And I think for many of us, it can be really difficult to really tap into and find out, okay, what's my gift? What's my superpower? I know for me, it took me years, like literally years. I think it was in my 40s that I really understood and discovered what my gift was. And I had it all that time. And I feel like it's lack of confidence, maybe a bit of imposter syndrome. I don't really like that word. But there is this way of thinking that we have as black women, that we're not good enough, that we always have to, you know, dress the part, look the part, talk the part, and do so much more than what others have to do to just be seen or be heard. And sometimes in that process, you can lose your authentic self. And I think when you lose your authentic self, that's where a lot of self-doubt can come from. It's not imposter, like you're trying to be something that you're not. It's a lot of self-doubt and a lot of, you know, do I deserve this? You know, can I really get to that point? And I think what's beautiful about her story is this is just an ordinary girl, okay, that comes from not much, you know, in her opinion, that comes from nothing, and she's elevated to this stage. And I think we can all take a lesson from that. And I think we all need to be a little bit more forgiving of ourselves and really be able to say, you know what, I am good at this. You know, it's really, really important. So, you know, from this podcast, think about what is your superpower? What is your strength? And it can look like so many different things. Some people can sing, some people can draw. You know, for me, I've realized that my superpower is that I have the ability to be able to take information and actually simplify it for people so they can too understand it and get from point A to B. Okay, so that just took me, you know, 40 years to figure out within my lifetime. But I realized that's my gift. That's what I'm good at. I'm good at really connecting with people and breaking things down into its simplest form so they can follow a structure and get success. It's as simple as that. You know, yours could be maybe listening. It could be that you're really great at creating something. You're more of a creative. Maybe it's more scientific. Maybe it's product development. Maybe it's just having the, you know, ability to do something that you find really easy. Like you can just do it off the top of your head and it's your strength. So take that time out and find out what your superpower is. But let's take a look more at Emma's story and actually how did she go from where she was to partnering up with the likes of the Kardashians to get to where she is.
Before you began working with Khloe Kardashian, and we'll get to that, Good American, you started a talent marketing firm.
Yes.
And, you know, very early on, you were young, you landed these fashion icons like Vivienne Westwood and Christopher Kane, and then you brokered this deal with Natalie Portman and Dior, like unbelievable stuff. Talk about the early days and how you thought about business strategy and partnership strategy, and what did you learn from those early days?
You know, it was so interesting for me because I feel like everything I've done in my career has led to this moment that I find myself in now as business partner to some very, very well-known people. But actually, I really cut my teeth in entertainment marketing. I intrinsically and always kind of thought of myself as like a bit of a hustler. I could sell anything. And so, you know, when it came to selling marketing services, I was pretty good at that. And I could go into these brands and convince them that my idea was the best idea.
So let's talk about partnerships. Partnerships are really important, but I think as an entrepreneur, we often suffer from what I call shiny object syndrome. So when we start off in the beginning, it's like we want to put something in loads of different baskets because we feel like at least one of them's got to succeed. And by doing that, we spread ourselves really thin. So we've got our main idea, our main business of what we want to do. Many of us are side hustlers. So, you know, you've either got a full-time job, a part-time job, or you're bootstrapping your business in some type of self-employed way. And then we decided, you know, I'm going to partner with this person. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. And with everything else going on, especially if you have family commitments, you know, maybe health problems, there's so many other things to life outside of business that sometimes you just get so distracted that you can't really focus on any one thing. So I think when we look at forging partnerships, we need to make sure that they're aligned with our goal. That's really, really important. You know, for any of you that attend any of my masterclasses, I talk about SMART objectives really often. And they're all things that most of us know about. You know, we learned when we studied. At some point in your career in life, you might have heard about those SMART goals, about being really specific, being able to measure what you do. Is what, you know, you want to do attainable? Can it be done in the time that you said, in that timely manner? And is it, you know, realistic? Sorry, I didn't quite do that in order. Not the acronym. You know, is it realistic? Realistic means in the gut of your stomach, do you believe like, yes, you know, I can do this? And this is where strategy and planning comes in. When you've got a really great strategy and a plan that you know what, girl, I can do this. That's when that self-belief will kick in. It's a bit like going for a job interview and you've got that feeling, that gut instinct that, yeah, okay, I got this, I got the job. It's about that same feeling. And I think when we look at partnerships are really key. Being an entrepreneur is a really, really lonely place. And to get yourself out there, if you don't want to pump loads of money into advertising, you're going to have to go into what's called borrowed traffic. You know, you're never going to have a traffic problem in the online world. You've either got something called borrowed traffic, where you go into other people's communities, which is really what I'm talking about now, partnerships. Then you've also got your own traffic, which might be your mailing list. And then you've got paid traffic, which you can pay for, whether it's through SEO, social media marketing, and all the different digital mediums. So partnerships are very much borrowed traffic to a point. So creating partnerships in your early days are really important, because that's how you're going to be seen. That's how you're going to be made aware of without actually spending money. But be careful not to go off on a tangent and have partnerships that actually don't align with what your goal and objective is. And that's why it's really important that we always start with the end goal in mind. And Emma is just an absolute brilliant example of how she made partnerships work for her. I mean, for goodness sake, she has partnered with the Kardashians. I've grown up with the Kardashians. Don't treat me. And I do admire them. I admire the mum, Kris Jenner. I admire all the children for where they've come from and where they've gone and being global brands. This is a family that was doing brand endorsement for decades till they become big enough to actually launch their own brands and launch them at a rate that is ridiculously just really, really quick. You know, what Skims sold in their first 6 months, it took Nike 10 years to do. So these are people that really understand about brands. So Emma was able to really use partnerships and use her earlier talent and superhero to be able to create partnerships that really brought her business that she co-founded with them to the top of its game in a really quick amount of time. So think about the partnerships that you need to make. Think about how they align with your goals. Think about how those partnerships could benefit from you. And it's a long journey, and you want to start forging those partnerships from now, little by little. But let's take a look at partnerships and how it really, really works for Emma.
Let's shift to influencer partnerships. Mm-hmm. So you've got this, you know, you've spent years working with very well-known talent and partnering with the talent in your businesses. So talk about how you begin these immersive partnerships, specifically with the Kardashian and Jenner family. And, you know, how did you make the sale? How did you initially pitch them? How did the whole thing come about?
Yeah. Well, you know, again, these things always seem like overnight stories, but I'd spent at that point, 20 years really creating this career of intrinsically understanding when brands and talent come together, what kind of magic can happen. And so when I founded ITB, my job was to go and sell marketing services to Calvin Klein or Topshop or, as it were, Dior. And so I really had a great understanding of not just how celebrity can impact a brand. But then, you know, influencers, and it was a very, very new. When ITV started doing influencer campaigns, we didn't even call them influencers. They were called bloggers, you know. I don't even think Instagram was a thing then. But I really kind of intrinsically understood the power of word of mouth when your peers are telling you something or when somebody that you trust is telling you something. And I really learned a lot about authentic brand partnerships. And I think that we talk so much about, you know, celebrity endorsement or influencer endorsement, but we all know that the best endorsement doesn't come from somebody with the biggest following necessarily. It comes from somebody that you trust and where that kind of engagement is there, when they hold a community and that community trusts in what they're saying. And so I've just done that on a big scale. I've taken, you know, I guess the biggest of the influencers and the people that we've kind of seen, you know, for the last 16 years, we know every part of their lives, and created businesses that are incredibly authentic to them and what they stand for. And it's just been, you know, it's been really one of the most gratifying parts of my career, because it's everything that I've come up knowing. It's everything that I've really learned. But at the same time, I think that, you know, and you guys in this room will know that there is no substitute for good product. At the end of the day, it doesn't matter who tells you to buy something. If the product isn't good, you're not returning, right? And all of these businesses rely on repeat purchases and people coming back time and time again to buy your services or your product. And so for me, when I think about what I'm good at, it's really understanding what a woman in middle America wants and needs and creating a product that's going to stand up and, you know, really understanding that intrinsic relationship between, I guess, a product and quality and value. And that isn't to say that, you know, things need to be cheap, but it's like that relationship between those three things. Like, what are you giving someone, for what price, and why is it better than what else is out there? And I think when you really nail that trifecta, that's when you've got something that is Skims, golden.
So quite often, you know, a lot of us feel like we need to close the skills gap. You know, we need to learn more skills to be able to really launch our business successfully. And for many people over the years, that has become digital marketing, because marketing is the process of how you promote a product and service and how you actually sell it. It's a key function within the business. But the world's changed. We're in the information age. We're in digitalization. So now how you promote yourself, you can promote yourself across so many different channels. The internet has allowed somebody that usually might not have, you know, the information, the skills, the money, the knowledge, the know-how to really be able to get into the market. The internet has lowered the entry to barrier. And some of you might be thinking, girl, whatever, this is hard. It is hard. But trust me, I've been going since 2003. When I first started, you know, there was no website builders. There was no Wix. There was no Kajabis. There was no ClickFunnels. You know, there was none of that. There wasn't even really a WordPress. Everything was hard coded. So for you to do anything, you had to get that specialist skill in. For many of us, we can learn things now. There's so many masterclasses, tutorials. But I know a lot of people, especially a lot of women, and especially women from Black communities, feel like if they're going to learn, I need that certificate. They need that validation from an educational establishment or institution that says, yeah, boom, you're really good at this and you can do this. But the reality is, I know for me, I did go to university, but don't tell my children this. Do I use what I learned in university in my day-to-day life and career? Did it propel me to be where I am now? And if I was to be totally honest with you, no. The best way you learn is through mistakes. Even if you've got a degree, a master's, a PhD, you're still going to have to go through the process of making mistakes to really learn and have that experience. You know, I'm always telling my children who think they absolutely know everything, you know, I've been here longer than you. I do know something. And in fact, I'm going to tell the truth. I tell them I know a lot more than you. And it's not about age, it's about experiences, you know, experiences that you go through in life. Wisdom is just a beautiful thing. For any of you that are spiritual, you know, when Solomon in the Bible was asked, what could I grant you? When God asked him, what can I grant you? He asked for wisdom, because it's so powerful. You know, hindsight is an absolute beautiful thing. So I think when it comes to, you know, wanting a qualification and wanting that certificate and feeling like if I'm going to learn something, it needs to be validated. Whilst in one hand, I agree, you do have to ask yourself, for the sake of your business and your goals, objectives, do I just need to learn what I need to learn? for the sake of being able to get my business from point A to point B, or do you need that certification? It's, the question you want to ask yourself when you're upskilling yourself is whatever, class, lesson, course, masterclass that you're going to go on, is it going to give you what you need to be able to fill that skills gap and be able to move along in your journey to work towards your objectives? And I think that is really, really important. And one of the things that I just absolutely love about Emma, and it just inspires me to my core, is the fact that she is self-made. She's the richest self-made black female in America. And guess what? She left school at 16. So she's gone down the road of hard knocks. So let's listen a little bit more about that.
I guess one of my superpowers is knowing what I don't know. I hired very well, very early on. And I was always trying to bring people into my businesses that would really help me level the playing field when it came to where I didn't have the skills. And, in my early businesses, I think the first 4 or 5 people, I paid them substantially more than I was paying myself. And I had no shame in that. I really understood that if I was going to take my business places, then I needed to compensate for the skills that I didn't have. And I was very clear about my goals early on. I come from, I'm one of 4 girls. I was, my mum was single and she raised us 4. And she really taught me very foundational things. I was just saying this backstage earlier. She said to me, Emma, you're not better than anybody else, but neither is anybody better than you. And so in some points of my career, I really felt that I didn't have perhaps as good an education as some of my peers. I left school when I was 16. I didn't do my exams. I was a bit of a college flunk. I needed money, so I went to work in a clothes shop. And all of that just made me feel sometimes a little bit inferior. But somewhere in the back of my head, I really understood that at some point in life, whether you're coming out of Harvard or Stanford or you're a school dropout, there's this kind of leveling of the playing field. And in my head, I really kind of went, well, you know what? We all have opportunity in some way to do what we kind of want to do. And I think that since moving to this country, I really had a huge realization that, talent is somewhat distributed evenly, but actually opportunity isn't. And I think that I've been very prepared for my opportunities when they've come around, but by the same token, I'm very fixated on where people don't have opportunities, how can I help provide them? And so I do think about hiring, how you're bringing people through your business, how you're treating people when they're part of your company. I've had interns that have turned out to be, editors at Teen Vogue. Well, they're really nice to me now because I was really great to them. Right. And so I do think that, the world is small, and I think I've always thought about, how whatever I do in any stage of my career is going to come back around for me. And that's been the truth of my entire career.
I think self-made is something that we talk about a lot, but a bit like the whole imposter syndrome, sometimes we don't believe that can we really become self-made. For many of us, we could be going down the funding route. Maybe you've got a CIC, maybe you're looking at capital venture, maybe you're looking at loads of different options. But the fact of the matter is, ladies, there are plenty of women that are self-made, and we're going to be covering a lot of them on this podcast. Spotlight Hustle is coming to you to make sure that we actually feature so you can see it's possible. The world really is your oyster. I think if there was ever a time that you can become self-made, it's right now. I feel like the conversations about diversity are absolutely huge. They're really there at the forefront of a lot of people's mind. And as black women, we are not even in the room, never mind the conversation when it comes to funding and, capital venturists. Out of every dollar that is spent, I think it's something that like 2% go to women. So by the time you put black women into that, we've probably gone into the zeros or, it's just non-existent. But it's really weird. Who's starting businesses up at the most fastest rate? It is actually black women. And we have to remember as well, the industry heads, they're actually men. Most of them white, middle-aged men that sit at the top of the food chain. So even in Emma's industry, in fashion, you look at big fashion houses and you look at the fashion industry, it's for women. But actually that marketplace is led by men. That's not specific to fashion. That is pretty much most sectors. And what I want you guys to remember is the fact that the end user, a lot of the times, is women. And as a people, black people actually spend the most on consumables. You know, you've probably heard the stats before. Many of us aren't educated around investment, around wealth, how to get from, you know, being nothing to self-made. So that's why it feels like, oh my God, could this really happen to me? It's almost like winning the lottery because it's just not common, but it's been done. And I really want you to understand from this episode in particular, you can do it without a shadow of a doubt. Yes, we're not in the room when they're having conversations about funding, but we are starting business up at the fastest rate than any other group. And we really have to ask ourselves, why is that? And I want you to lead with that. And I want you to remember it is possible for any of us to become self-made. And if that is your journey and that's what you want to take your sideline hustle to a place where you're going to be self-made and have it all, I want you to work towards that, but work really strategically. If you listen to Emma's story, it's about finding opportunity. It's about putting yourself in places of opportunity. And to do that, it is about working really strategically. Even for myself, I wouldn't say that my life, my business and everything that I've got really started to peak until I understood what strategy was. And then I was then able to use that. So it's definitely possible for all of us to become self-made, but we've got to believe it. I can't stress that enough. It's really, really important. And I do want to touch on the whole diversity really quickly. As women, who better to understand the end user? If the black community is spending so much, if women spend the most on consumers, this is why Emma did so well. She was able to take her outlook on diversity as not only a black woman, but as a woman as well, and say, hang on a minute, you heads are missing something here. She found the sweet spot just by being able to be a voice and represent herself and represent other women. And you can too. Many of us as black women have got products and services that are aimed at a diverse market, not just a black audience, because there is some type of misconception that, you know, if you're black, if you launch a product or a service, it's only for black people. Well, no, you know, anybody could, you know, use hair cream. Anybody can use hair lotion. It's not specific just because you made it as a black woman that it's for the black community. But audiences in this day and age are very diverse. There's many, many underrepresented groups, not just black. So I feel like when you come from a diverse background and you're an entrepreneur, and you're starting your own business, the insight that you've got about your end user is so powerful. This is what, for me, really made Emma's business elevate so quickly. It wasn't just the fact that she partnered up with the Kardashians. Actually, it was the fact that she was able to find a sweet spot just by using the lens of her own very eyes and saying, hang on a minute, this industry is run by men, but actually we want a brand that is for everybody, that is for all sizes, that doesn't send you somewhere else because you're a different size or segregate. Because essentially we are all women. And she used that lens that she's got of being a woman and being a black woman, and she translated that into a company culture and into an actual product. And it worked so well because women got it, because it's a product for women by women, a product for diverse women by a diverse woman. Makes sense? So, you know, use that strength that you've got. That's what makes you so different. That's a part of your superhero power, by the way. The fact that you can understand the end user better than a lot of top execs and CEOs, because actually you understand who your audience is. And understanding who your audience is, these are the people that are actually going to make you successful. Like, think of yourself as like a superstar. You know, when someone comes on the stage like, I want to thank all my fans. That's what you want to do. You want to create raving fans, and the more they rave about you, the more that, you know, they recommend you, is the more that you grow. It's down to your audience. Your future and where you want to be is down to your audience and your customers that buy from you. So everything within your business should be, okay, what does my customer think? And I think the power of Emma knowing that created what's called the sweet spot in the market that she was able to get. Let's take a look.
What was the seed and the initial thinking when you founded the business, or in the years before you announced the launch?
Well, you know, there was a couple of things, and like any good idea, it didn't come from one place. There was a part of the work that I was doing where clients of mine would say, hey, Emma, can you cast a really diverse looking campaign for us? And I'd be like, yeah, right. You know, it's like no, the room was completely not diverse. The clothes didn't work for anybody above a size 10. And yet we were going to put forward this marketing image that depicted something completely different. And so that kind of got my goat a little bit. I was like, why couldn't we just be diverse and be inclusive as a company and then show a true version of ourselves? So to me, there was just like this clear gap in the market. I was like, oh, right, there's something there. And then I started thinking about products, and I really understood, you know, really intrinsically that the plus-size community is grossly underserved in fashion. You know, plus-size women make up 67% of this country, and if you go into any mall, you have two shops, bad shops, bad, you know them, bad shops. And so I just thought, well, you know what, as a black female founder, like I would actually have a different point of view. I would create a company where diversity wasn't something we were talking about, it's just something that we did. And I would create a product that actually worked for all women's bodies. Because this idea of women kind of shopping, you know, one department if you're one size and another department if you're another size, my experience is like, we all want the same thing. You want a pair of like cute black pants? You're not like, I'd like a cute black pant in a size 16. You don't think like that.
Yeah.
So I was just like, you know, the fashion industry is missing a trick here. And also I thought it was time for more of a female point of view. There are lots and lots of women in positions of creative directors, but not that many actually making the decisions. And I think that's where the fashion industry falls down, that actually the people that are the consumers are not necessarily always the decision makers. And so I was like, I can probably create this and do a really good job with it. And, you know, I was pregnant. When I came up with, you know, the idea of Good American, my timeline got really crunched because I was like, okay, there's a baby coming. So I was like, I'm going to make this like fully inclusive clothing brand. And then I was like, maybe I'll just do denim. And I thought, well, maybe I'll just do like one style of blue jeans. It was like, but actually in hindsight, that was amazing because our message was so pure. It's like, we make jeans, we're going to make them in all sizes, and whatever your body shape is, you're going to come to Good American and find something that feels like it was made for you, because it was. And so that was that, you know, and we were off to the races. We had the single biggest denim launch of all time, did $1 million of business on the first day, and, you know, I had to
Let me pause
move.
on that. Good American made $1 million in sales on its launch day.
Yeah.
And
Which, guys...
And Skims made Time Magazine's list of the most influential companies this year.
Yeah, it did, absolutely. And, you know, Good American is also, you know, we were on Fast Company's list of most innovative companies, and I love that because what we do, you know, people, you kind of look at it and go, well, they make jeans. But it isn't just about that. We are constantly and continuously innovating around fit and fabrication. That's how we decide to go into specific categories. And so from where we started, we knew that we had a tiger by the tail. There was such an insatiable appetite. And our community told us, they were like, we love what you're doing and now we want more. But also that can spoil you in the beginning, right? Because you think you can do everything. And we were very principled about the way that we went into the business. And I still think those principles hold true today. We said to ourselves, we will never ever sacrifice, you know, fashion for the sake of inclusivity, meaning we will never dumb down a design to make it work for the community if it's not something that Chloe and I would wear. We would never sell to retailers that don't take the full size range. So you can't just like say you're in the business with Good American. You're either walking the walk and talking the talk, or you don't stock our things. And we will always be truly diverse. And that's not just about the image that we put forth in campaigns, but it's like, what does that look like at a board level? And what does it look like running through the company? Because we know that better decisions are made when you have a mix of people. And that's not just about racial background, it's also about educational background, economic background. We really want to make sure that the people making the decisions at Good American are coming from a place of true diversity.
I always say to the women in my community, it's okay for you to choose your own audience. Like, not everybody is your audience. It took me a long time to figure this out. Like, I'm a black woman, and that's when I decided, okay, I can't keep hiding behind this underrepresented, I used to call it. You know, the government calls it BAME, which is an expression many of us really don't like, and I'm one of those people that don't. But there's so many things that you can label black women as, and a wider group outside of that. One day I had to really sit down and think about my messaging and think, well, my audience is primarily black women. So actually, I'm going to start addressing them for exactly what they are. So my message becomes clearer. And that definitely was a pivotal point for me. That's when things really started to change. And I feel like my place within the market and who I am, what I stand for and what I do started to become a lot clearer for others just by me defining, you know, who my audience is. And I spent years not wanting to do that, feeling like, well, I don't want to alienate everyone. But the fact remains that my service isn't for everyone because people buy people. So you're probably going to buy more into me with the fact that you can relate to me. If that makes any sense. So, you know, it's really, really important that you understand who your audience is. And it's really important that you stick to your principles. So if someone, a segment isn't your audience, it's okay. And it's also okay to say no. In the beginning, people will ask you to do things. You're going to be so excited, like, oh my God, that you're going to do a lot of things that maybe don't align with your objectives and your goals. So just be careful of that and understand that it is okay to say no. If it doesn't align with what you want, don't fall into that shiny object syndrome and go down another path. Stay authentic to yourself. That authenticity, that vulnerability, that's actually what's going to really help you grow. Sometimes the things that I do when I'm the most vulnerable are the most successful because I'm not overthinking. It's coming from a really pure place, a bit like being a child. And I think that's really important. There is so much power in vulnerability. So along your strategy, if you said, what was the next thing that really helped me get to where I am? It's definitely vulnerability. And it also gives me a sense of peace of just being able to be myself and not have to pretend to be something else. And I think that's really, really important because it's easy in this world to lose your identity, especially if, you know, you're second, third generation, and you have come from that Atlantic slave trade. There's so many different layers of you and so many things that you have to understand in terms of your history, your culture, mixing that history in a new country that you now belong to. I'm a British citizen, but at the same time, you know, my parents are from Jamaica. So it's really important that you understand and you align yourself with who you want your audience to be, who you want your partnerships to be. And don't be afraid to say no. It's okay. Stay true to yourself and be strict because sometimes for opportunities and for you, as you turn it down, the right one is just around the corner. You know, and again, it's testament to the amount of distractions that we can get. And those distractions that sometimes seem really great, when you have loads of them, you start to lose that focus again. So again, let's just take a look at really, you know, how it's okay and how Emma said no and how that really worked for her and how sometimes having the lack of knowledge in the playing field that she was in actually was one of the best assets that you could have given her.
When you start to create a culture, it's something that really needs to be mandated and heavily policed in the beginning. At least it was for us. That first kind of 0 to 20 employees, I found myself consistently repeating, like, that's not the good American way. This is how we do things at Good American. I understand you've been in the industry for 20 years. Having said that, forget everything you've ever learned because we're going to do things differently. So it took a long time to like find our people, to get people that would understand our culture and strive to do things differently. And I mean that in every way. You know, in the early days, we would send technical specs of garments to factories and they would send them back and say to us, this doesn't make any sense. And we'd be like, no, it does. It's just a really big size. Well, we don't have the machines to make it. And I'd be like, well, can you make the machine? And they'd be like, yeah, if you pay for it. And so, you know, there were all of these hurdles, but we were just relentless. And I do think that some of the decisions we made in the early days, i.e. saying no to certain retailers, being absolutely resolute that we had to have a certain dress in a certain knit with no seams at every size, they seem like small things, but actually they make a huge difference. And the culmination of all of those decisions means you're sitting in an entirely different place. And customers feel it. They know the truth. They smell authenticity. And they know when it's stamped on at the end. And so I think that bringing customers on a journey, but also never making sacrifices to our principles, is the reason those companies became so successful.
I don't talk much about sustainability, actually, and I think it is really, really important. I think we live in a world now where people can choose who they buy from. I know for me, as I've grown up, I make more of a conscious effort to make sure that I buy, I actually buy from small businesses. I make a lot more of an effort to make sure that I support Black businesses. I'm very picky about where I shop because I understand actually I can spend my money anywhere and it can benefit, different groups. It can benefit different beliefs. And as I've grown older, I think sustainability is definitely one of those things. Having young children, they're naturally taught, how to save energy. Mum, we should walk more. Do you know what the fumes do? Do you know the planet's not going to be around, Mum, with all the plastic that, we keep throwing away? They're very much aware because they're being educated, where I'm from a generation where I haven't really been educated around that, which is quite interesting. So I think when it comes to beliefs, we do have to understand that the next generation coming up definitely are more in tune. They've got a belief system of actually, I don't want to buy clothes from a manufacturer that is paying people a ridiculous amount and, they're having to struggle and their quality of life is really, really poor. Also, I can look good, for example. There's so many things. People are a lot more aware, even I am, when it comes to food, where's cocoa being made, like all the farms that exist in developing countries, how are those people being treated? How are those farmers being treated compared to those in developed countries that are more knowledgeable and know? Because when you know, right? When you don't, it's easy to get taken advantage of. And that's what happens a lot. So I think sustainability is something that we should all be thinking about in our businesses, because the fact remains that actually people have got the choice of where they shop from. And I think for me, Emma being such a big role model for me is something that her story has definitely pushed me to think about more about with my younger audience. Like, what does sustainability mean to them? What does it mean to me? What are the things that we could be doing to make sure that we're improving lives down the food chain? For those of you that have got online businesses and side hustles, many of us get freelancers in. These freelancers can come from all different parts of the country. My team is from Nigeria. Woo-hoo! And they will tell you, for me, just because what you're paid in your country doesn't make me think, well, I'm just going to pay you this because this is what your minimum wage or this is what the average rate is for the job that you do in your country. I like to reward and pay based on what we bring in. For years, I would pay staff and not pay myself, because I value them. I understand that teamwork makes the dream work. So even in that aspect, when we talk about sustainability, it really is about treating people fairly. What you put out is what you get back. I believe in that. What goes around comes around. And I think, having that reason, having that I want to make the world a better place, coming from something with a really good heart, just means that as you grow in business and you scale and you become strategic, it's like you're paying it forward. And like I said, what you pull out is what you get back. And I do really, truly believe that. So I think all of us could think about ways within our business on how we deal with sustainability. And I think for those of you that will be growing a team, especially as you've got online businesses, think about how you treat your staff members. Think about how you treat your team. These are the people that will be filling your skills gap. So it's really important that they understand who you are, what you believe in, and they give it their all. And they're working that journey with you to be able to get to that end destination. And I think the best way to that, it is about being sustainable. It is about treating people fairly as they would. So I think we could all think about sustainability in different ways, whether you've got an online business, whether it's online and you've got a product, how do you make that product, the packaging, because again, it goes back to the customers. What are the beliefs of your customers? And like I said, Emma's story really did put this to the forefront of my mind. Let's take a quick look.
Putting together, I honestly believe in the power of board members. I've made sure that I put together not just a board of people that I trust, but a board of people that will really challenge me. And I think about some of the hardest times. I mean, I don't need to tell anybody in this room, the last 2 years has been a challenge. The businesses that I run, it's actually been really fantastic for. Having said that, we didn't know that that was going to be the case, and I've never managed through any type of downturn. I'm, about to be 40 years old. I wasn't in a position of leadership in the 2008 kind of crash. And so COVID for me was that moment where it was like, oh my goodness, things are about to go down. Right. And I could definitely say that I'm not perhaps a wartime president. I'm great in the good times. I'm the best cheerleader you'll ever meet. But I was like, whoa, are we going to have to close down? I don't want to fire 250 people, this will be terrible. But I do think, assembling that type of, whether it's a board or a group of people that you trust, or people, again, that just come from have a different point of view and a different experience. That's been really, really important to me at every step of the way. And going through the, you know, the crisis that has been COVID, having that wealth of experience and people that perhaps had managed through other crises when I hadn't, gave me a much more long-term point of view. And I think I made different decisions because I went out and spoke to a lot of people.
So lastly, one of the things that, again, I gravitate towards Emma, look, on first name basis, like she's my bestie, is the whole children thing. She has got 4 children. And I remember her talking about, like, when she went to launch Good America, and because she was pregnant, she was having a baby. It's kind of like it went from this full-scale business of loads of different clothing till it ended up with being just denim and jeans. And I totally get that. There's been so many times, I've got 3 children, and there's been so many times in pregnancy where it's kind of like, okay, let's niche this down. Whoop. And, you know, we've got to get this out before the baby comes. And a lot of times my children were probably scheduled in around work. I know that sounds really bad. But we all, you know, it's my passion. It's my goal. It's what I do. I don't love my children any less, but I totally understood it. And I connected with her on so many levels, sorry. And I think when you've got children, it just stretches you even more. And it's the reason why you need to be even more focused and more strategic when you do have children. And having children and running a business, especially when you're starting out, you've got that sideline hustle, it's starting to make money, you're bootstrapping it, but you're not at that point where all the income is being able to pay for your salary, run your house, have your staff. There's a transition that goes with that. And I don't know why we tend to label it as startups or small business. You stay in that startup realm for quite a long time. And I feel like there should be different periods of being a startup. Yeah, which always bothers me that there isn't, because once you've been into something for 3 years, it's kind of like, am I a startup? It just makes you feel like, oh my God, look how long I've been doing this for and I'm still not got anywhere. So I think sometimes how we label ourselves can also create insecurities and also create a bit of that imposter syndrome, the phrase that I don't like, but it can create that I'm not good enough. So having children means that you're going to have to find balance in everything. Even if you haven't got children, you can have other responsibilities and commitments, where you've got to find balance. But for me with Emma, I definitely gravitated towards her as an inspiration because of the children part. But like I said, we've all got responsibilities, some just the same, greater or less than children. It's relative. And it's funny when people always say to me, so, you know, self-love, self-care, like, how do you get the balance? How do you make time? You know, and for the first time ever, I heard another female entrepreneur say it, and I laughed because it's so true. You don't. I think you do just accept that not every day is perfect. Not every day does go according to plan. And you have to very much have that mentality of, let me have a shower, let me have a good night's sleep. Tomorrow's a new day. We're not always perfect. And I think as women, we just hold ourselves so accountable to that. Whereas men are not perfect every day with half the responsibilities as us. So just stop giving yourself such a hard time. You just have to try and fit balance, self-care, self-loving when you can. Because as a female entrepreneur with loads of different other things going on, for me to sit here and say, do, and you'll get that balance in life, it is pretty unrealistic, you know, because with having loads of things to do can come anxiety, can come stress. It's just about you being really mindful when you're getting burnout to say, okay, time out, enough, I need to take a step back. It's about you recognising today hasn't gone to plan. Tomorrow's a new day. Do you know what? I'm cutting off. I'm going to get some rest. I'm going to go to bed early. It's about you saying, you know what? I need to concentrate on my health and my fitness and building that into your actual schedule. To say that you're just going to get this happy, harmonious work-life balance, I just feel, if you want me to be honest with you, as a female entrepreneur, is a tad bit unrealistic. But I've always felt this and thought it, but never ever actually just said it out loud or admitted it to anyone. So when I saw her interview and she spoke about it, I was like, yes, it's not just me. Let's take a look.
You are the CEO of Good American. You're co-founder of multiple businesses, Skims, many others. You're a mother. You're an investor. You're on Shark Tank. You have all these things that you're doing. How do you balance your time? How do you manage it?
Oh, this is my favourite question. I think just forget balance. It's lies. It's like totally lies. Anyone who's like, oh, I'm so balanced, she's a liar. It's true. honestly, like, this is how I think about my life. You know, it's like, if I have a sick kid, I have a sick kid. And I don't really care what's happening in, like, Skims land, right? It's like, I'm going to be there for my child. But by the same token, I really believe that as, you know, a mother, like, that's not all that I'm here to do. And there is some kind of sacrifice. I just came home from London yesterday. I landed in LA at 5. I left the house this morning at 5 a.m. And of course, my very jet-lagged 4 kids all looked at me like little puppies. Where are you going? And I said, I'm going because I have this, like, job. I'm speaking to all these incredible entrepreneurs. And Lola, my little girl, said to me, is that so you can buy more stuff? I said, no, dear. It's so you can continue to live in the lap of luxury. You know, but it's like, I talk to my kids like that. Like, I'm really honest. I'm like, you know, my life's work is not just about being a mum. It isn't just about being an entrepreneur. But I think if you're constantly, as a woman, looking for balance, as a founder, you're gonna constantly disappoint yourself. It just isn't there. I think that we've just got to give ourselves a bit of an easier time. Sometimes my kids miss me, sometimes my husband misses me, sometimes I don't do such a good job in the office, and it's all right. Like, it's fine. Men have been getting away with it for years.
So I hope you have had a blast. I've definitely really enjoyed delivering this podcast today. I've really enjoyed it. I enjoy every podcast, to be fair, because I just get so excited about the women that are featured. But I think for me, I have grown up with the Kardashians, so to know it was a black woman that was behind them, and for all the years I've watched it, I never knew. I don't think it was until the last season she got mentioned, and then I started looking and reading more and more. And for any of you that know Emma Grede, you'll also know that she was recently, when this was filmed, on Dragon's Den. So please do check it out, because she invested in such a beautiful soul. I'm not going to ruin it for you and go into it for you. The link will be in the bio, but please do watch it, because again, it's going to inspire and motivate you. And actually, we're going to be doing more coverage over that episode as well. So click the link in the bio, find out more about that Dragon's Den and the business that Emma invested in, which was a black female entrepreneur that had a hair care product. It is possible. It's possible here in the UK. On, you know, those of you that are listening from the UK, we don't hear stories like this very often. So that's why I'm so super excited about this. America is so much more bigger, and there are many success stories, and we will be covering them as well. You know, Emma doesn't take away from any of those success stories, but she is British. I'm British, so I've got so much love. Emma, well done. I think what you do is absolutely amazing. You're an inspiration to so many women, and I've had so much fun of just going and featuring parts of your story and just talking about your journey. And I hope for those of you that are listening or watching, it's inspired you and motivated you. So see you on the next episode.